our company, Integrity Transit, Integrity Global Logistics, Team Integrity Knowledge Center. I mean that. We operate with integrity. And I think that's also why I've done so well in government in such a short period of time. I'm under 40 and I've been able to retire my mother. And that's through government contracting. I've been able to sustain in a very, very fragile market right now. That's because of government contracting, because this is a life-changing customer. If you play the game, if you follow the rules, stay compliant, oh man, you can scale so fast.
All right, welcome back to the Construction Game Podcast. Super excited to have with us today, Melanie. Melanie, where are you calling in from?
I am from Chicago, the Windy City.
There you go. So Melanie, walk us through what business are you in? What are you doing in the marketplace right now?
So I am the founder and managing director of Integrity Global Logistics, which is a proud minority woman-owned certified transportation and logistics provider. But not only that, I also am founder of Team Integrity Knowledge Center, which is a premium consulting firm where we show other small business owners how to kind of build, grow, and scale by onboarding this large customer called the government.
Love it. Yeah. So talking about the government, so you do government contracts, or do you just, and what I mean by government is like U.S. government, do you also do local, state government? Walk us through that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the government is, again, the world's largest customer. We all kind of know that. And so we do have the federal level, which is the highest level of government procurement. And then we kind of trickle down into your state, your city, your county, and municipality. It's a customer. So I service all of those various different levels. And so we have done work on the federal side with customers like FEMA. I think most of us have heard of them. And then we do local work with the local college, universities, and local departments and agencies.
Outstanding. So I primarily focus on the federal side, which is the U.S. federal government. Walk me through, what do you do for FEMA? Because I've done a couple projects for FEMA as well on the construction side, but I'm interested to see what you do.
Yeah, so within transportation, it's ground level transportation that we primarily focus on. And so we've handled several relief efforts with delivering of simply water. Just simply water, which is really, really heavy. And so that will have to go on 18-wheelers, semi-trucks. We've also handled medical kits, medical supplies during some disaster relief efforts. FEMA is a tricky customer. So we have the government as a customer, and then we have all of these various different departments and agencies, right? FEMA is a customer that you have to just kind of stay ready for, because we don't know when that emergency event is going to happen. And so they kind of jump in on an as needed basis. And so there's various different type of services that you can provide, from transportation of goods and emergency supplies to actual warehouse and storing of some of these emergency kits and things of that nature.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, you never know when a storm's going to hit. So now for FEMA, is this a client that you've reached out to, or is this a client that has reached out to you?
Okay. So FEMA's never going to reach out to you. Okay. That's not going to happen. FEMA is an opportunity where you have to stay ready. And so what do I mean? For me, I'm FEMA TSP. So that's FEMA Transportation Service Provider. And so that process only comes around once a year. All right. Actually, it's about to open up here in February, FYI, you guys. And this is a once in a year opportunity. Once that enrollment opens up, you have the opportunity to now stand next to FEMA as a vendor and a supplier to help to transport of those goods. So once you get approved to become a FEMA vendor and supplier, that's when you get put into their database. And so when that emergency does hit, that's when you get a email notification, and the bidding process goes very, very fast. You literally have about 3 minutes to respond to a pickup and a drop off location. They give you weight, dimensions, and you got a bid. And so what does that mean for us as small business owners, medium-sized business owners? You must know what your cost is. You have to understand what your operational cost is. And so FEMA, again, is a very, very tricky customer, because if you don't understand your cost, if you don't understand the disaster area that you are going into, your ass is grass, and so to speak, because you can come out in the red with FEMA, and FEMA doesn't care, right? Your price is your price. And this is what you said you can do to fulfill this particular mission. And so, yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that. There was so the national championship just was what's happening, and one of the star receivers, he has this thing over his nose that's like GABOS, and it's like game ain't based on sympathy. So when you said FEMA doesn't care, that's real. Like, life doesn't care. I mean, if another business was doing business with you, and all of a sudden they came to you and said, hey, my price is $5,000, but now that 2 months later they're now saying like they want to get paid $50,000, like that doesn't happen. That can't happen, or your numbers are going to be in trouble. So yeah, no, I love that, because it's real, and that's what business is.
Absolutely. Like for you in construction, right? You must know what that cost is to man that project, and the cost of your subcontractors, the cost of your bond, the cost of your insurance, and things of that nature, right? And so FEMA is that one opportunity for you to get in there, give them your number, and get out. And so FEMA is a tricky customer. I really recommend those that have experience in business and to onboard with FEMA. FEMA is not very forgiving, because it's emergency relief, right? So you need to know what you're doing. I really don't recommend someone year one, new startup, registering with FEMA. Get your feet wet. Understand what this looks like just from a business perspective. And then what does it look like to handle a customer like the government too? Yeah.
Yes. And handling and being able to work and navigate in the government spaces, that's definitely 100% true. And we do contracts for like the GSA, the USDA, the Navy, the Army Corps. And what I always say to people is like, the Navy and the Army Corps for us are the toughest, right? But like, if you're working for the Park Service, if you're working for the Fish and Wildlife, you're working for one of those agencies are way more friendlier and way more forgiving to work for, right? Like, if you go onto a Navy base and you start trying to guess and figure things out, like, you're going to get shut down. You probably won't even get started. You probably won't even get started. And I remember my first Navy project, and we had been doing government contract. It wasn't our first contract. It was like our third or fourth one. And I had a mentor that had been, doing government contracting for a number of years. But I remember still struggling to get my quality control plan, my safety plan, and my environmental waste management plan approved. And if you don't get that approved, you are not starting any work. Especially for the Navy, you're definitely not starting. And I remember struggling to get it approved, but like I stayed after and figured it out, and I finally got connected with a superintendent that had helped create those previously, and he helped create mine, and then we were able to get it submitted and get it approved. But you're 100% right. I was stressing out a little bit there.
Talk about it. One thing that I advise our clients is getting started. Start out on the local level. I know everyone is like, hit up sam.gov and go crazy, right? Because sam.gov is like the place to be. But I really would say start in your backyard. Me personally, we just won an 8-figure contract in our backyard on the state level, right? And so start in your backyard, get the experience, understand the insurance requirements, quality control. When you said that, I was like, oh yeah, I'm on a project right now. I just got out of a meeting for quality control. And so really understand what are the things that are going to be needed for you to build out a solid framework. This is a lifelong customer. This is not a one-off situation. This is a customer where you can rinse and repeat. Right? Rinse and repeat from department to department to agency to agency. You just listed off about 5 customers, right? And so there's not a rush to go chase these millions of dollars in the federal, opportunities. Simply start out in your backyard, because as you just stated, some of these agencies and purchasing officers, procurement officers, they're not forgiving. And so it's really important for you to have that solid foundation just so you could be successful.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Totally agree with that. And, I mean, I always think about things like, like, like if I was doing work at my mother's house, would I want this work to be accepted or not? And if the work is good, then, and if my mom would accept it, then I keep moving forward. But if not, like, we got to stop and we got to rip it out and do it all over again. So that goes back to the same thought process and the same framework of like, this game isn't based on sympathy. This game is unforgiving. So it's like we get one bite at the apple. And I remember my mentor telling me, Oliver, we get one bite at the apple. You do a good job for these people, like the sky's the limit. But if you go in there and you start making excuses and you fall on your head and you can't figure it out and get back up, like we're in big trouble. And I embodied that, and I was just like, man, we gotta finish and start and finish every project. And no project is gonna be perfect. Like this is like business. I'm in construction, like, and we're in the people business. Like nothing is gonna be perfect. But if you address everything and you keep things moving forward and you don't fall on your head and give up, like you'll get to the finish line and you'll be able to live to fight another day. So I love that.
You did and get a mentor. How about that?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So government contracting, as we know, sam.gov is free. Right. Registering with your state and local portals, free. Going to PTAC, now known as Apex, free. So it's a lot of free services, but I really, really recommend investing in onboarding a mentor, a team that can help to lay down the blueprint and just make this as easy as possible, because they do make it very challenging overall. And as small business owners, we're not readily available or equipped to handle a customer like that. There's a few things that we need to implement. Accounting, if you're in IT, make sure you have the right software and safety measures in place. Construction, quality control, and bond and insurance and transportation, all of the things that go along with that. Why not onboard someone who's made the mistakes and can turn, decades into years for you and help you to just kind of understand what it looks like. But you get one bite of the apple with a lot of these customers. And I would hate for, people to take that bite and ruin their opportunity for something that has changed my mind. I'm under 40 and I've been able to retire my mother. Right. And that's through government contracting. Honestly, I've been able to sustain in a very, very fragile market right now. That's because of government contracting. I've been able to, expand my team and have a really, really good retention rate because I'm on 3 and 5 year contracts. Right. And that's because of the government. And so take this thing serious for sure.
100%. Love that. Now, when you first started, what did your team look like?
Okay, so let's go back a little bit. So I know you jumped right into it, right? So let me take you back just a little bit. So I used to be a corporate girl. I was a nurse practitioner. I was ER trauma. I worked a 9 to 5. And then I said, you know what? After having the kiddos and I was again, ER trauma, missing Christmas, missing Thanksgiving. I said, what would it look if I bet on myself? What would it look like if I just bet on myself and jump into entrepreneurship full time? Now, transparently, I had some portfolios. I had a few companies of my own. And I said, well, what if I just run them full time? And I jumped into transportation, which then led me to I jumped into entrepreneurship full time, which led me to transportation. And I really noticed that this is saturated. How many trucking companies do you know? When you're driving down the road, how many trucks are passing you by, right? I said, well, damn, how am I going to scale this particular portfolio? And I started to do research and I discovered government contracting. And I too started at PTAC, Apex, like most people. And I said, this is free. This is only going to get me so far. I said, how do I really, really make some noise in this particular industry and in the paradigm of government contracting? Leverage what I am. I'm minority and I'm born a woman. And so I got certified. I talked to shareholders. I said, make me 51% and let's move this thing. And so that was my strategy, which really, really helped.
Wow. Yeah. That's great. That's really good. That's really good. And were those team members that you were working with, did they actually come into the business and help with like your back office and all of those things that you needed support on, or how did they support you?
So in several different ways. Some team members from a capital perspective, just to be transparent. Some team members from the frontline perspective. So we were asset based. So I own equipment and trucks and trailers and things of that nature. So we had some really, really solid drivers. I went and onboard a Bobby, right? I went in when I started. I don't have a CDLs. I'm never going to get a CDLs. That's not my strong point, right? So I knew that I had to have somebody who did. And I went and got a Bobby who had 1,000,000 miles underneath him and no accidents, but I had to compensate and pay him a little bit more. He then was the one who trained all of the drivers and team drove with them and held monthly meetings, making sure safety was a very important component. So Bobby was essential for me scaling the empire. Then in the back office, just transparently, I realized quickly I only can scale so far by having US based team members, and we took everything offshore. Just like kind of downsize. We don't need all of these, dispatchers in office. We don't need this big office with these empty desks and computers. And we took it offshore. And so that is what really helped.
Wow. That's really cool. Yeah. And then it's really interesting. You said you need a Bobby because my mentor's name was Bob as well.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Super
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
And are you still in communication with Bobby?
Yeah. We're definitely in communication. Yeah. Definitely.
Awesome.
Yeah. So as you were growing the business, and is your team still the same, or have you transitioned, or like have you gone in a different direction, or like how is all that looking?
Great question. So things have changed drastically. And so we have went from, 22 trucks to, having an office with a mechanic shop and having 8 desks to kind of downsizing. Because with the government, you don't necessarily need all of these assets to fulfill a lot of these projects. What you need is a network and some solid relationships. And so once I started winning and figuring out this thing, I realized I don't want a fleet of 100 trucks anymore because I don't need them. And so we've been able to significantly downsize, run as lean as possible, and leverage some really, really solid relationships.
Yeah, that's gold right there. I mean, that's real gold. I mean, and honestly, that's what we've done. I mean, ever since like project number 1 for the federal government, we hired we weren't a mechanical contractor, but we got a mechanical contract. So we had to then hire a mechanical contractor. We had to hire an electrician. We had to hire all of these different parties that could then help us get this project to the finish line. And what did that do at that time? My business current was at $500,000 in debt at that time. So I didn't have the credit lines at Train and all of the supply houses that I needed, but my subcontractor did. I didn't have the payroll to pay my installers on a weekly basis for a month until we got paid, but my subcontractor did. So I tapped into all of those resources immediately, and I immediately got it by securing the contract with the federal government. So yeah, no, I'm such a huge believer in obviously you got to find good quality, the best. I always want the best subcontractors because when you get the best subcontractors, all of the chasing, you still got to do some of it and make sure you get the documents you need and all that submitted. But a lot of that unnecessary chasing goes away, and you get people that want to see you do well. They want to do well, and then we all do well together.
Absolutely. Well said. There's this big thing called the middleman. Right? People hate that terminology. But in all actuality, it's a real thing. The catch is, do you understand the FAR clauses and what they say about limitations on subcontracting? Let's start there. And then number 2, honestly, when we're talking about 10, 20, $80 million projects, if you are the sole prime contractor and you don't have any subcontractors, that's a little scary, right? Because if something fails with you as this one sole prime awarded contractor, what's going to happen to this mission? What's going to happen to this project? And so if you look at some of these larger projects, they welcome you to invite your partners and your subcontractors with you. And then to kind of just spin this thing a little bit, how about we bring on this minority woman owned? Now I'm partnering with VOSB because I don't have one and I never will have one. But if I partner with somebody, now I can kind of market and showcase myself to meet those goals. And that is what this looks like, right? It's how you do it. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. I like that a lot. And yeah, this game is a lot about partnerships, and that's what we've done. We've had partners on almost every one of our projects, and we need great partners to get these projects to the finish line. And we all come together. They have their roles. We have our roles. And I was just telling someone today, I'm not just sitting on my couch all day eating popcorn. Like, I'm in the trenches as well. I'm going through the meetings and making sure all of the needles get threaded, because there's a lot of needles that need to get threaded in this stuff to make sure you don't have problems on the project, and make sure things are getting done the right way, and make sure quality control is happening. And it's a lot. And I don't even know how you could do it on your own. I mean, even the largest contractors in the world, like people that I've been looking up to for a long time, they all hire subcontractors. And honestly, that's how I initially got into the game, as a subcontractor. Yeah. So it's definitely having a great network is definitely a really strong pillar in being successful in government contracting.
I mean, look, like you said, study the big boys, right? Look at Deloitte, look at, Crowley. They're utilizing partnerships to get a lot of these projects done. They're not completing them themselves. And then something that you said that stuck out to me, like, I don't even wear the CEO founder hat anymore. I'm a project manager. I'm managing projects every single day from anywhere in the world. And so threading the needles from project kickoff, right, to first, second, third week evaluation, to meeting with the department and the agencies and the customer to make sure we're meeting the demands, to maintaining that project, that's work. That is work. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it's definitely work. It's definitely work. Yeah. And then you take it to the next level and you start training other people how to do that work. And then that's when you start growing and scaling. That's it. That's good.
Absolutely.
That's good.
Absolutely.
That's good. Good.
You're only as strong as your team.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I mean, that was the game changer for me. Was the first thing that really changed the game for me was hiring a finance team. And once I got that finance and trying to do all the bookkeeping and the reconciliations and all that stuff off my plate, and I could just focus on bidding work and getting it done. And it was a game changer. And then it was like, the next thing was like, for us, was like getting someone to help me bid work. Right. And then I stayed on the fulfillment side, because if you mess up on the fulfillment, you're never going to get the opportunity to bid again. So I hired somebody on the bidding side, and that, I didn't really understand the power of it until we had a really tough job. And I've never been thrown off a project, but this project that I was on, I was like this close from getting thrown off, because everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. And we had a subcontractor that, was blowing holes through a fence instead of drilling the hole. So it's like, all of these things we had to correct, but it just took so much time and energy to just get an understanding of what happened and how we're going to move forward and get it moving forward. And it just took so much resources. But at the same time, once I got out of that situation, I realized that we still had $10 million worth of work. And I'm like, how did that happen? Well, we still had our person that was bidding projects sitting back there throwing passes. Not all of them got caught. No, $10 million worth of them got caught.
Yeah.
And $10 million worth of them kept the business moving forward. So after I was done putting out that fire, we still had other projects and other work to do. Whereas previously, what would have happened is I would have had all my attention and all my focus on project management, definitely not focusing on bidding because it was that serious of a situation. And we would have got out of that situation. We would have had no work, and it would have been the crazy roller coaster ride of construction. So I realized the power of having someone, and building with a team and having someone on the bidding side. And then after of figuring out how to hire that project manager, then we started hiring the project managers and actually having them come in and add value and not creating more fires for me to put out, because that's a real thing too.
Yeah. So I know we talked about you have one bite at the apple, which I love. But also I'm going to say this too. I was in a similar situation where I was this freaking close. But I also want to say that there's some agencies or actual individuals that are forgiving, that will allow you to correct your wrongs. And so a lot of us are fearful because it's the government, right? The word is heavy. It's daunting. But they do give you an opportunity for you to come on, showcase your core competencies and your abilities. And if you kind of fall short, they allow you to correct your wrongs. They do. It does take you some time to be debarred and all of those things. And so I just wanted to add that in there. Yes, it's a hard customer. It is. But ultimately, they do work with you.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I second that 100%. And
right?
Again, I have said from the beginning, we're definitely not perfect and we don't ever claim to be perfect. But one thing we don't do, and one thing that you said was that you correct your wrongs. And there hasn't been anything that has been unsatisfied that we have not corrected. So, and I mean, anything. So we've always corrected our wrongs. And when you're that type of person, and when you're that type of company, and when you train your people to be that type of people, then the sky's the limit with the government, because that's the last thing that they want to be doing is trying to fight and grab someone and get them to come back and correct the things that they messed up on.
Absolutely. Well, only thing I want to say is, our company, Integrity Transit, Integrity Global Logistics, Team Integrity Knowledge Center. I mean that. We operate with integrity. Everyone underneath our empire meets those standards. And I think that's also why I've done so well in government in such a short period of time, right? Doing what you say you're going to do. When you submit that bid, you have to understand what that scope is asking for. You have to understand what the deliverables and expectations are. And when you throw that number, you need to make sure that encompasses everything that you may not see coming included in, being able to perform that contract to end.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, that's honestly probably one of the biggest things that any contractor struggles with is not what you have in your bid, but what you don't have in your bid, right? And what you should have had in your bid.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and you gotta get better. And I'll tell you what, we've gotten better. I mean, we now, tie all the specification sections and the drawing numbers to our subcontractors, because sometimes there'll be a scenario where it's like, hey, I didn't have that. I'm like, what do you mean you didn't have it? You were the mechanical contractor. You got the mechanical. I didn't have that. Well, it says it right here in the spec section. I didn't have that. Well, you're going to be tied to the same documents I'm tied to moving forward.
Absolutely. Yeah. You get the same scope, the same requirements as I do, for sure. And pricing is so essential. People are like, just bid. But you have to understand, when you're bidding, your price is your price, right? Mm-hmm. They don't want you to come back and say, well, my subcontractor just added another $22,000. True story, right? They're not trying to hear that. Sometimes they could make some form of adjustments, but rarely ever. Your price is your price.
Yeah. Any other setbacks that you've had, in your game of, building out your business?
I would say access to capital, right? So I understood that they don't pay right away, but I really didn't understand until I was in it at this level. And so us as small business owners, we don't have our financials together. We definitely don't have money sitting around. We don't have, again, all of the documents in place to go through, funding seamlessly. And that is something that, Okay, so true story. So won a contract with IEMA, Illinois Emergency Management Agency. So we were awarded the full state emergency management. Well, COVID hit. You know what I mean? And so we handled the deliveries of all hospital beds, respirators, the list goes on, the gloves, everything that you can think of, right? And I'm like, I'm going to float this myself, being greedy, right? Wanting to, come out a little bit more profitable rather than going to a factoring company or, lending. And I almost lost the project trying to float the capital because your subcontractors don't want to hear that. Some subcontractors are understandable. They understand that net 30, net 60, right? But overall, they want to be paid every 2 weeks if that's how you have it structured, right? And so I really learned quickly that my profits and my proceeds come later. And so I need to be able to secure payroll and the cost of having these partnerships and A players. You said quality subcontractors. That's another thing that I learned. Going to onboard a subcontractor off Google so I can, increase my margins and walk away with a little bit of a fatter, bag. That bit me in the behind later because they go to the project site and they're unable to perform at the level of this customer's requirements. So I would say those are the two biggest things. Number one, getting access to capital sooner. Number two, also too, just to tie in there, learning the power of negotiation with the government too. So we are on a 8-figure project and I don't have to go for funding because I said, guess what? We'll fulfill, but give me 2%. We'll give you a 2% discount if you pay me in net 14, right? And so you have to understand this is a government. We're doing business. Everything is negotiable. And I was the highest, I won. And we don't have to go through funding because I was able to negotiate that and the money hits every 2 weeks. And we have no problem with that. So access to capital and really building out a solid Rolodex of really, really good partners.
Yeah. Again, the partners thing for me is just huge because it really makes a project or breaks a project. And we've had so many successful projects, and then I think about the projects that we struggled on, and it's like, wow, that was really challenging and we made it challenging because the partners that we selected in the beginning were challenging, and we put ourselves to that torture. So
and I love that honesty. It was the leaders' responsibility. It was the prime contractor's responsibility to make sure that we are aligning with the appropriate subcontractor to handle the deliverables of this type of project. Talk to me a little bit about access to capital and how did that work out for you starting out?
Yeah. So our first job was a project down in Sanibel Island with the Fish and Wildlife. But before I got to be a prime contractor of the government, we were a subcontractor. So I was down in Florida and I was doing some federal Department of Transportation work.
Okay.
And we were working for this huge contractor down in Florida. And we were working on the highway connecting Tampa, Florida to Orlando. Okay. And they had this huge $100+ million project, doing all this paving and stuff, but we were just doing the underground piping work. So all of that big reinforced concrete pipe that runs under the highways, we were installing all that. And we were going out there and we were busting our butt. We were bringing out equipment, tens of thousands of dollars a month, fuel, tens of thousands of dollars a month, payroll for operators, for, superintendents, for laborers, tens of thousands, hotel, tens and thousands of dollars a month, the material, tens of thousands of dollars a month. And then at the end of the month, we'd go and submit our invoice and it'd be crickets. And it's like, oh man, we gotta pay this again another month. And then it's crickets. And it's like, I started looking at myself. I'm like, what is going on here? Like, I was like literally calling them, begging them to pay me and making sure I got, and they were holding up my money over a $2,000 release that I didn't get to them. And I'm like, you owe me $300,000 and you're trying to hold me up for $2,000, literally having to drive from Tampa, Florida, all the way down to Miami through Alligator Alley to go to their office to pick up my check, to deposit my check so I can make payroll. Yeah. And I was like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
I'm like, somebody is making money, but it is not me. So that was a dumpster fire, and we I ended up walking away from the subcontract game $500,000 in the hole, and honestly scared. I was like 25 at the time, didn't really know how to even operate a business, and I was $500,000 in the hole. I had people calling me; they wanted their money. I wanted to pay them. They're starting to press lawsuits, and I was like, "What am I going to do?" Well, I knew at that time that somebody was making money in that scenario. It just wasn't me. And I looked around and I was like, the prime contractor working directly for the client, they're touching the money first, and that's allowing them to make money because they're negotiating prices with me. And I realized that like the price that I was doing this work for wasn't the price they were getting paid for the work. And the reason why I found that out is because I had a material supplier that gave me a price at one number, and he gave the general contractor a price at a totally different number. So I got charged the higher number, and I was like, man, somebody's winning here, but it's just not me. It was not me. So I was $500,000 in the hole. So I didn't have money to play around here. Okay. And I spent a year calling up and down the East Coast and trying to get in touch with contracting officers that could issue me a contract. And I hit that one down in Sanibel Island, and this was a design build project. And when I submitted my pricing, I got a call back from the government, and they were like, "Hey, Oliver, I appreciate you sending over your proposal." And it's like, but we need you to sharpen your pencil. And sharpen your pencil to the government is like code word for like reduce your price. Like
that's exactly what they were saying.
And I remember my mentor telling me, Oliver, do not touch the number. And he said, Oliver, do not touch the number. And I submitted that number so scared. I'm like, why are we doing this? Like, we're not going to get the job. I need the job. I got all these bills to pay. Wow. I want to just reduce it just a little bit to show we're willing to work with them. He's like, Oliver, do not touch the number. I submitted it, and they gave us the award. And I was like, oh my God, like all these years the reason why I wasn't making money is because I was giving away all my profit. But we ended up getting the project, and we created our schedule of values, and we knew the first thing was design. So I knew that I needed to, when I created my schedule of values, I needed to understand what my design cost was, but then put additional money on top of that design that was going to help me get this project to the finish line. So I got paid for we submitted our design. Our designer didn't want to get paid right away. They were willing to wait 30 days. So we submitted our design. The government reviewed it. They approved that design. Then I submitted my invoice, and then I got paid, and then I paid my designer. But there was money left over. So I used that initial money to then help fund the rest of it. The same thing for my subcontract. My HVAC guy got on site. He did the work. He waited 30 days, and I submitted my invoice, and then I got paid, and then I paid him. So I utilized my network to start building my funds back up. But at the same time, that one job wasn't going to save me. And I remember my mentor telling me, Oliver, we need more work. This job is we hadn't even started this job. And he said, Oliver, this job is already done. The money's already spent. Yep. And he was 100% right. But it lit a fire under my butt to keep going and keep marketing this company. And then all of a sudden, after we finished that job and I got my review from the government saying Oliver did great, we performed perfectly, this and that, we executed, we did everything we said we were going to do. I then went that and brought that back to all the other contractor officers that I had been talking to. And then next thing you know, I hit a $2.6 million job in Marine Corps Logistics Base, Albany. I hit a $500,000 job up here in DC for the General Service Administration. I hit an $800,000 job down in Tyndall Air Force Base, another $800,000 for the USDA doing a roof project down in Gainesville, Florida. And the rest was history. And our motto and the motto that I continue to train our team on, and the motto that I continue to put out in the marketplace is that we got to continue to hit the ground and never get complacent. And we need more work. We need more work, and we need more profitable work.
Bid. You have to bid to win. And that's another thing. People are just standing around looking, and they think that the contracting officer is just going to come send you an email and say, hey, come get this 2.6, come get this 800 million. That's not how this works. We have to meet them where they're at. And you just said something key: market. I knew, don't give up and market this damn business. Keep going, keep chugging away, and look at you now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Salute. Congratulations.
100%, 100%. Yeah, that $2.6 million project you're talking about is that was so monumental for me because I was living in Tampa at the time on my dad's couch, and I left out of Tampa early that morning. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning. I drove the 7 hours to Marine Corps Logistics Base, Albany. I got there at 9, went through the badging, whatever. Had my meeting at 10, and I get there, and the lady's like, "You're the only one that showed up." He's like,
Perfect.
this little Southern lady comes in. He's like, there was a tornado warning that came through the area and everybody else canceled. And I was this little young kid. I say little kid, but I was this young kid just trying to get my business out there. And I was the only one that showed up. But that was our first $2.6 million project. And the confidence that I got by being able to go out there and execute on that contract, has been, helped create the rest of the story that we have here at McKinsey Construction.
Awesome. I love that. I love that. Wow. I think I can identify. It starts with your, maybe your little $20,000 opportunity, $50,000 opportunity. But once you hit that 7-figure contract, it's over with. It's over. I just started to market and say hello. Say hello, meeting them at these various different networking events, requesting, of meetings with them, really showcasing my market research. Like, hey, I know that you were on this last contract and it's coming back down, right? It's up for renewal. Hello, how are you? We can meet these competencies that you're looking for. And that's what it looks like every day. And that's a big part of my role too.
How did you get that tenacity?
Well, my dad's Jamaican and my mom's Puerto Rican. Let's start there. And I'm from Chicago. Let's start there.
But I mean, like when you first were going to these events, were you like literally that tenacious, or was it like, did you have to kind of figure your way out through it, or was it, what did that look like?
I faked it till I made it. I faked it till I made it, and I leveraged my partnerships, right? I don't have 20 years of experience, but I can speak to that because my partner does. Right. At that time, I didn't have 150 trucks, but my partner did. So I did. Right. I didn't have a warehouse, but my partner did. So I did. And that was for me, my strategy. And so I built my level of confidence based off of my network, just to be honest with you. And again, I don't know, being Latina, being a minority woman in this all white male dominated room most of the time, all the time, I knew I had to stand out. And you stepping in these type of rooms, head down, hunched over, shy, sitting in the back of the room, that's not going to cut it. That's not going to cut it. It's sharks out here in this game, right? And so if I'm going to step into this game, let's play. Let's play. And it's a little unfair, right? And so I had to make a little bit of noise, and requesting a FOIA was another way, another strategy, let them know there's a new sheriff in town. Let me see that, right? How much was it awarded for? Who was awarded? What did that proposal write-up look like? What was the evaluation metrics? And then when I stepped to them, I already did my market research. So I spoke with very much so confidence.
Yeah. And I think that's 100% right. I mean, when you say you did your market research, I mean, I remember going to those meetings as well. And I'd be in those meetings, and I would have so much certainty because I already knew every contract that person had been writing. Oh, we don't have any, ma'am. I know you have contracts. I know exactly who you've been submitting them to and signing off on them for. Like, where do I find those type of projects? And just continuing to hit that rock and hit that rock and hit that rock and hit that rock. And then all of a sudden it just cracks. Yeah. It's like, okay.
And then another thing.
But now you got to perform.
Now you have to perform. So that's the thing, right? Winning is just the beginning. That is just the beginning. Now you have to perform. But let's say you over exceed their expectations. Now I started to get emails for micro purchases. Can you get us 20 containers? Well, I don't have containers, but sure. Absolutely. Yeah, I can do that. Right. And I leverage my network. And once again, I over exceed their expectations every time. And I'll say this, I try my best to, over exceed their expectations.
100%.
Yeah.
That's all you can do. You can do is give it your 100% and make sure you got a great team around you that if you don't know how to get it done, someone else on your team does know how to get it done. And you just keep working it and keep working it and staying consistent with it and keep working it and getting it done. So.
Yeah. And can I be super transparent? The contracting officer just wants you to get it done. However you need to get it done, get it done. Literally, even if you need me, don't call me, get it done. And that's just the honest to God truth. Your job is to make them look really, really good. Your job is to make them look really good and that they chose the right vendor and supplier for this project. And if you can achieve that, it's going to be a rinse and repeat process with that one customer. And that is the truth. That is the truth.
Good, bad, or indifferent. I mean, even if you have an issue, if you find a way to get it done, like they'll just always remember you as a person that gets it done no matter what. Because everybody has issues, everybody has problems, and every, you know, when we say one bite of the apple, everybody has those issues. But like the bite at the apple that makes it a successful bite at the apple is by finding a way to get it done, right? So yeah, it's huge.
I always lead resolution based, right? Because as you said, every project is going to come with, you know, a bottleneck, a hard stop, challenges, all of that. That's what this game looks like. And if you walk into it knowing things are going to happen, but besides that, how do I solve this? That's really how you can truly be successful as, you know, a project manager and a prime contractor.
But it's worth it. Like you said, you retired your mom's, which is awesome. Congrats on that. That's huge. That's big time. My mom's not here anymore, but if she was here, that would be the top of my list, right? Because that was always my goal, and that's why I hustled so young, is because I always wanted to take care of my mom and three sisters. But you know, my three sisters are here, so yeah. Okay. Yeah. But I still hold my three sisters down. And then you also said that you have a thriving business even through, you know, a challenging marketplace. Yeah. And so yes, this is a challenging business, but it is so worth it if you can figure it out and get moving in the right direction. And that big thing is get moving in the right direction, and don't stay stuck.
Don't stay stuck and know what's possible. As I'll say it, as minorities, you know, we sometimes are intimidated by the government. Sometimes we don't really understand what's possible. This is real. It sometimes feels unreal, but this is real, and take it very, very serious, because this is a life-changing customer. If you play the game, if you follow the rules, stay compliant, have a solid book of business, you know, a network of people. Oh, man, you can scale so fast, you know. And then we know we don't have time, but we haven't even touched on leveraging 8A, you know, and leveraging some other different strategies. This thing is real, you guys, and this thing is possible. Look at Oliver, right? And so, yeah, just stick with it.
Yeah, just full transparency. We've done over $250 million worth of contracts in the last.
Let's go. I love that.
Yeah,
I love that. And how many people have you employed? How many lives have you changed? We have our teams buying homes now, being able to get married and have an actual wedding. You know, just all those, offering health insurance and just amazing things. And, you know, leveraging, you know, city internship programs where they can come and shadow the warehouse and, you know, all of those type of things. This is so rewarding. And I definitely will make sure that my children are in the business of GovCon. Hands down.
Love it. So how do people get in touch with you?
Oh, Melanie Patterson on all social media platforms, Team Integrity Knowledge Center, GovCon iSource, but Melanie Patterson on all social media platforms.
Let's go.
Yes.
Awesome. This was great.